Okay, hi everybody. This is Vercelletto speaking from France, Europe, where it's 9:30 p.m. here. We just had dinner. Depending on wherever you are on this planet, I mean, the meal can be different or just lunch or whatever. So pretty much welcome to you all. Um, Today, tonight, so whatever you are in, we're going to talk about something that I believed in, a few years ago that would not ever have been possible and that I've been trying to achieve during the last weeks, which is developing hybrid application with the 4GL language, which I bet if you're attending this session, you are a fan of or you have been a fan of. And so we're gonna have some discussion and look at a few stuff here in here of what is possible to do with the language. But first of all, I mean, I'm not gonna bother you long time with this, but just talking about who I am, who maybe people who are not used to the AUG probably don't know me. And so I'm based in France. France is in Europe, so it's night here again. I've been pretty much working with Informix. I mean, I started in 1986, which makes me a senior person. So Informix was obviously, like I think many of us, as soon as I started with working with that language, I pretty much fell in love with it. So I started in this year, then so started with the 4GL language. I mean, this was at the time version 3, working on what was going to be Informix standard engine a bit later, a few years later. So working on making software with this version, I mean, pretty much medical software and lab analysis software and stuff like this. At the time, I just shut down my own company due to another opportunity I had in a private hospital, where I also been working on a medical application. I mean, in a private hospital, and this was under contract, and when the contract finished, I've been integrating Informix Software France as a technical support on the hotline at the time, where we're talking to customers with phones and a few emails too. And this has been, I've been working for Informix Software in 2 countries, first in France and then in Portugal, where I had another mission. So, and this all made a period of 11 years. So working as on 4GL technology, then learning what was going to become IDS, and then training people on IDS, and then making consultancy on IDS at customers, I mean strategic customers and all that. And I did pretty much the same in Portugal, where I had to learn the language, because when I landed there, I mean, I didn't speak one word of Portuguese. So it's been 6 years in total in Portugal in Informix software. After this, I went a bit away of Informix technology to do some CRM stuff in a big CRM company at the time. Then I stopped and decided more than 10 years ago now to come back to Informix technology, which was pretty much my first love, where I built my own company, I mean, small one-person company, doing Informix consultancy on pretty much whatever deals with Informix. So that's what I'm doing now on my own for more than 10 years. And I love it. I mean, I'm not fourthly a very rich man, but I am a happy man because I'm doing the technology I love. And in all of this, I've been always mixing engine, I mean DBA stuff with development stuff. I mean, this is a critical thing that one has to to do if ever possible. I mean, mixing DBA technology with development technology, because this is where you're going to be more accurate on detecting problems and giving solutions. So basically that's what I'm into, and so still, yes, strong in 4DL language, and this is what I wanted to show you tonight, with something that may look crazy, which is talking IoT and while talking 4GL. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, so trying to okay. In the 80s, I mean, the word and the IT world and companies were something pretty much different and definitely probably easier than today. If I take the example of some companies that have their own ERP software, homemade or not homemade, just a simple case where, for instance, I mean, one typical example is the products table, which is pretty much centric on an ERP application. But at the time, this was not that difficult to manage for a number of reasons, because at the time, the word space, general pace was probably not slow, but not that fast as today. And when one designed products, I mean, this was probably for years and not for months nor days. And at the time, it was sufficient to have an accurate, a good DB design. And if you had this, I mean, implementing new functionality was not so hard to achieve. And also, word has changed because the sales teams, although they're always bothering the tech teams, I hope that no one is in sales in the audience. If that's the case, sorry for that. But the guys at this time were easier to talk with, and were pretty much less demanding. So achieving new functionality was something that was really talked with people and easier to achieve due to more talking, let's say. Now, today, the world has changed. I mean, obviously, we all know that the world has changed a lot since the last year and a half, but that's another topic. But something that undeniable is that the world is nowadays on a fast and furious pace. I mean, market trends lead the game, and the poor techies, the poor DBAs and poor developers just have to follow. So that's how it happens. I mean, over the years, the product specs, whatever area you've been to in any industry, but the product spec generally get more and more complex, which has an impact as database schema might often be modified. And we all know that when, I mean, DBAs know that if we want to modify a table, I mean, this will lead to an engine downtime. Engine downtime will mean no accessibility to the system. And although this was accepted, I mean, decades ago, now this is almost any more accepted. And nowadays, if we look at around us, I mean, we can see that application must be modified, maybe in a permanent way. I mean, maybe some of the sales are asking for that functionality, and other technical asking for another functionality. So that's a huge amount of modifications of product editing, I mean, of software editing, that most of the time will lead to IT downtime. So as for us, I mean, this is a very demanding challenge. And what we have been, I mean, kind of concluding is that 4GL doesn't fit that well with that model of developing applications, mainly because we had to recompile, we got to to alter databases and tables and all that. So we have a problem there. We have a problem there, and many people, I mean, every time I discuss with people talking about 4GL, yeah, well, I mean, that used in the past to be a very good language, but it's totally outdated today. So, I mean, it's totally legitimate to have to wonder whether this should go on or not. But something that happened now. 4GL and structured SQL. I mean, when you talk about structured SQL, we talked it versus non-structured SQL, which is, and there is a version as per our community, Informix IDS v12.10 FC3 which output a radical change. On one hand, anyone developing 4GL application knows deeply in his heart that the language is very suitable for ERP kind of ERP application, because we have forms, we have a lot of commands, statements in the language that makes developing relatively fast applications and very readable. I mean, it's got a lot of advantages in terms of maintainability, because reading 4GL is something easy. On the other hand, I mean, and we all know this, I mean, starting from late 90s and early 2000, many languages, new languages popped up, like Java or Python, Perl, and all of that, with a lot of new functionality, new syntax, public libraries, and stuff like this, which unfortunately relegated Informix to an old-fashioned language. Informix 4GL was getting poor, while those languages were getting rich in terms of possibilities. No? Okay. Probably, if you are here, you love 4GL, or you have not 4GL. Okay, so do I, sincerely. But yes, 4GL does the legacy job very well, but let's be sincere, it's no more enough. I mean, the world is asking for more than this. What's the game stoppers here? I mean, we have limitations like static arrays. We don't have commands to handle files and make and many stuff like this, which I mean, considering the style of the new applications, developing those new applications very tricky to achieve. I mean, sometimes you just cannot do it, or have to write C functions, which takes time, obviously, and that probably a showstopper for many people or many companies. Okay, second one, 4GL has an ugly interface. Okay, we won't lie each other. This is true. I mean, this was a great interface 40 years ago, but nowadays, I mean, it kind of looks ridiculous. And okay, for people with more than 60 or 50 years old, I mean, it's okay, but under that age, I mean, it looks more ridiculous than anything. So those people either don't accept it, or youngsters don't even know how to use it, which is kind of a problem. Okay, second point. Third point, 4GL has no web interface. I mean, the probably best thing you can do is use a PuTTY, but you have to be connected on an application server through a login, and this is probably goes against today's security rules, and this kind of thing. Also, something general, everybody wants to run on the web client today, so that's unpredictable. Yeah, kind of. Users have to connect to application server. I mean, this keeps working, but okay, people don't want this anymore. And when we get to asking for web services in 4GL, there has been some intent to implement InfoGL, but they've been given up, and so we consider they just do not exist. And okay, this is the start of a list. I mean, the list is probably longer than this, but we won't stay on doing that. 2013, critical dates for Informix. IBM embeds MongoDB, a NoSQL database engine, into Informix. So that's not a mere date. I mean, this is kind of a revolution. One more, I would say, with Informix, we're used to that. But anyway, this is one more. What will be the result of this? So, resulting from collaboration with the Mongo team, dev team, they work together with the IBM team and our Informix lab, beloved lab people. So Informix deeply embedded a new data type and its own methods to access them. The data type was kind of a binary data type, which is BSON and JSON. JSON being the most visible data type, BSON being an internal representation of JSON. So they did implement that, and what can we get from having BSON? If we add a BSON column in a regular Informix table, the data can be accessed either, and this is where they did marvels about it, the data can be accessed two ways. The MongoDB syntax way, where you will use a connection with the MongoDB listener, or the Informix NoSql way, which is a set of functions in the Informix language that will allow you to access to the NoSql data, to the BSON data. So this runs on the connection we used to use, which is the Informix SQLi. Something really important to understand is that the Informix table keeps being an Informix table. I mean, that's not another table put apart, which is not really Informix included into Informix. It is an Informix table. It can even be a column or a set of columns in an Informix table, which is handled pretty much the same way as it is in our usual database engine. So it keeps all the benefits of a relational table within, obviously, we'll all agree on that, on the best DB engine on this planet. Okay, you all know this. So, NoSQL data, that means BSON columns and SQL structured data, I mean, what we used to use, are miscible. I mean, you can mix them and use them all together. This results in, for instance, doing a select statement with BSON columns and structured SQL columns in the column list, or in the where clause, in the order, group by, etc. So you can do whatever you can with those columns. The mix can be done with columns from the same tables or joins between two or more tables, just like if it were, I mean, it is a regular column, but with something in addition, obviously. Also, indexes can be created on BSON columns. So that's not by curiosity that a developer should consider the use of NoSQL. JSON is the really basement of any NoSQL DBMS, and it radically changes the way data is implemented and gives it strong advantages. First, the way NoSQL handles the data is very simple. The data is made, every data is made of pairs of key, which is key is equivalent to the column name, and the value. The value is equivalent to the contents of a column. So a NoSQL document, or read it, a row, is made of one or more key value key pairs that are dynamically inserted or modified by the application. So you can really have complex structure inside a column, and per row, I mean, if you have many rows, you have many instances in there. So what are the main advantages of this? First one is data type flexibility. As we read, so whenever we insert or modify a NoSQL document or keep a pair of key and value, this is going to be done through the application. So read it in a reverse way. You don't need to modify the table. So you don't need to perform an alter table to have a different presentation of the data. First. Second, data types can be virtually any type. So it includes many types, strings, numerics, I mean decimal, whatever, float or whatever. It will be represented as it is input. Also, something we never had in SQL data type is arrays, and something that's, at my point of view, that's a critical lack here in terms of data type for the structured SQL. NoSQL has this kind of data. Also date related, but also image, video, binary, also time series, which has its own implementation of time series, and many more data type that we can have. So basically, by creating one column, what you will achieve is you can have anything that your application, as long as you modify it, will be able to represent. Okay. So that's the first concept, let's say, for database designers. Now, if we stand on the DBA point of view, that will make a big difference, because whenever I use based on JSON data or data types, this will allow me to change the structure, to switch from a static way meaning alter table, which lead to production downtime, to a dynamic way, say no more downtime, at least for that reason. So inserting a new key value pair with a new key name has the same effect as creating a new column in the table, which means translated by alter table. Once the BSON column exists, so I still need to create maybe the BSON column, but once I have it, we don't need any more to change the schema. No downtime. That's a good win. Also, this resolves a problem we could have while altering the table. For instance, when we alter a data type from one type to another, I mean, we can have the problem of handling the old data and the new data, which is sometimes not easy. Using NoSQL, we won't have this problem anymore, because everything is stored as it is. Old data will have the old form, and the new data will have the new form. So we don't need any conversion to translate data from old format to new format, nor stuff like this. I mean, we get rid of it. And something which is pretty much important, performance is just as good as it was with structured data. I mean, the engine is the same, and we also have the possibility to create indexes on BSON columns and BSON, say, subcolumns. So all good. I mean, we don't have to consider that as a negative point. But the good thing there is, once we have this in an Informix database, that's an Informix table. I mean, it won't be no different between any other tables. I mean, for instance, that's very effective because you won't have to to perform ETL jobs if you wanted to export data from the Informix to an alien. I mean, be it whatever Couchbase or whatever. So no ETL jobs here. You save time. I mean, your team save time. Probably no downtime for this kind of thing. Also, no separate tuning. I mean, once your data is in the table, it's an Informix table again. So you're administrating your Informix instance, be it with NoSQL columns or not. And also, I mean, you also can use transactions, which not all the NoSQL engines can do, by the way. So that's also something obviously you can do. And also no separate backup or admin actions needed. I mean, when you do an operation on the Informix instance, it will consider everything that's in there. So basically, the NoSQL or BSON columns will be in tables, Informix tables, and it will pretty much make no difference with what you used to have before. So let's go to the points. We'll consider not a real case, but this could be a real case. So we were talking about the product table, and so I wanted to show you the schema of this area where basically I have my product tables. They're called product structured, which has company code, part code, and description, short desc, classification, family, subfamily, group, subgroup, etc. And my sales people came and asked me the following. We have here 3 columns that are part of this, that are the specs of my product. Thing is that the company decided to create new products, and length, width, and height are not far from enough to put in the product specs. So the thing has been considering, how could I implement this? Okay, obviously saying, okay, that's easy, outer table, I will add how many, as many new columns that one needs, and that's it. But this is downtime, and this is this is a pain in the thing. More than when those guys understand that they can ask and they can have, and then they will ask more often, and then they will demand to have it faster. So what they have been asking this time, so something simple, they needed area column, they needed capacity column, they needed weight column, and left me understand that there might be more in the future. So at arriving at a certain point, you will say, okay, guys, that's going to be, this one is going to be easy. It will have caveats, which will be downtimes, but if you keep asking more, this will be more and more difficult to achieve. So, we need to find a solution. And thinking a bit, Informix BSON says my job. Not to say anything else. Because this is going to be really easy. What will I do? I will create a new column. Yes, okay, this will be one author table. But I will create it once. This column will be called prod specs, which will pretty much explaining what it will be used to, with BSON data type. And doing this, I know that I will be ready to add any column that could be considered as a product spec. And if I have very different products, the way it is implemented will allow the developers themselves to create new specs, or even the users, and not the to depend on the DBA to achieve this. So basically, I created a prod specs column called BSON, and now we can, for those who never saw some JSON representation, this is how the data could be inserted. For instance, here I have a pair, and I have two pairs here, key value. So one is prod length, so product length, which is the key, and the value. So if anyone inserts this, we'll have a new column effectively in the table contents. It will be length of the product. And also we have prod width, so same principle. So we insert the key and the value. But so for some other products, we can have length, width, and height, which, because this would be relevant for that kind of product and not relevant for other kind of products. And no limit. I mean, as long as this is a product specification, I mean, the application will, so this is code, this is source code, but at least very easy to perform. So they will use product length, width, height, and this time weight. So basically no more limit. I mean, my guys can put whatever prod specs they want. I mean, this will be represented very easily in the database. No need to have big change on the database beyond the very first one, which is creating the BSON column. So basically, it looks very, very nice as at least at the DBA point of view. But we are halfway done. I mean, okay, the database side is done. We are okay. Half of the problem is resolved. So I said, avoid breaking the database schema by normalizing the table relationship. I mean, sometimes I could have considered this modification by creating new tables and making a one-to-one relationship by normalizing them, which will make the data easier. But again, this is increasing the number of rows, increasing the number of relationships. No, that's no big deal if we have a relatively small data volume, but it can be an issue if we have very big databases. And also, these are new tables to create. So creating new tables, again, alter table or create table is generally a downtime. So that may be effective, but it will be more flexible, but probably performance won't be that good. Okay, so that's one advantage. Once I have the column product specs, I get rid of schema modifications. No more alter table, nor alter table add column. End of it. As a DBA, now I can look at the future in a very nicer way. I mean, you say, hey guys, please bring me your new functionality. I mean, at least for product spec, do whatever you want. I mean, we are ready to satisfy your needs. The table is ready now, and no more job apparently to do as a DBA operation. And okay, so on the DB side, I'm okay. Now I have to consider the other part, the applications. So as everyone knows, many languages can deal with NoSQL, mainly with JSON, hashes, etc. Like Python, like Java, like Perl can do that also, and a number of other languages that easily deal with that. Problem when we look at 4GL, that's an issue because 4GL doesn't. Basically, they would ask me for some questions. A number of bad questions that they will ask to the DBA, which is, okay, guys, Informix 4GL does not accept the BSON type. They cannot map 4GL variable to BSON source of the database engine. For instance, in a define statement, no way to have this kind of defined statement, it will not compile. Other issue, syntax. I mean, 4GL syntax, I mean, unless you prepare it and you prepare it a special way, you might have compiling issues with that. Also, and that's pretty much the very core of the issue, the structure of the JSON data returned by the engine is not known by 4GL, which means that every time an engine returns a row, its data types are totally unpredictable because I don't know what's in my data. That's the very nature of BSON data. I mean, the applications puts whatever in it, and I don't know because there is no structure. I mean, no strong structure. So whatever can come. That's a reality. And we all know very well 4GL. Defining a 4GL record has to be done in a static manner. I mean, once you define a record in 4GL, it will have to stay like this. If you want to define it another way, you have to recompile your application to define for instance, to reflect column adding or column data type change or stuff like this. So that's difficult, and this takes time. That's one of the reasons why many people consider that 4GL is no more ready to handle for such functionality. Also, that's bringing data from the engine. Now, how can we handle this data? I mean, remember here we're talking about data that's more or less unpredictable to come. So as I just said, I mean, 4GL is very static. So if the data is defined that way, it will have to remain that way. And the opposites, JSON never comes, I mean, maybe never comes the same way. So yes, Houston, we've got a problem. So time to switch to another language. Okay. Seriously think about it. Okay, learning a new language is fun. I mean, we're all techies. I mean, we like learning, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but learning is something. Being good at a language is another thing. So how much will it take for you to be a good developer of this or that new or less new language? It takes time. Also, very critical point, rewriting an application is very risky. I mean, we've been using the application for decades. I mean, it had some bugs, it has no more bugs, it works like hell. It's not beautiful, but it works and it serves, I mean, what the company wants from it. Thing is that we know that the current version works, but best case, we don't know when the new application will, I mean, with the new language will be developed, will be rolled out, and will be satisfying for the users. I mean, we'll have happy users, not complaining about tons of bugs, etc. That's one thing. And the secondary question is, okay, we know that it works, but we don't even know whether the new one will ever work. I mean, and that's gloomy, Mr. Gloomy speaking, but that's a reality. Many of those projects, I mean, say, okay, some decision makers say, oh, 4GL, what is that? I mean, I don't want to hear about that. Let's take a normal language like Java or whatever, and in 1 year, everything's okay, everything will work. No, guys, I'm working on a project here in France, just to set you some boundaries. Project started in 2003. This was about putting out a 4GL application with Informix SE, pretty much critical because it was dealing with payroll of a very sensitive population in France, which is teachers, high school teachers and college teachers. So, I mean, you know, French strikes, blah, 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 etc. So, I mean, that's a bomb. I mean, if this doesn't work, the the country is just exploding, and that's it. So project starting in 2003, 2004, 5, 6. So yeah, this was moving from Informix to DB2 and from 4GL to Java. So project starts to 2003, 2004, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 2016. Someone reporting to the minister says, "Hey guys, are you delivering something or what?" Yes, you're listening correctly. I mean, it took more than almost 15 years to deliver nothing. So minister gets mad at it. He says, "Okay, you guys deliver next year or we stop." And the guys tried. This was a total fiasco. It didn't work. They had to triple the sizing, the server sizing, and more things like this. This never worked. So what did they say? Okay, we keep Informix, and we try to have it to maintain it. So we had to upgrade all the versions and all that. Obviously, we did that the very easy way, because I mean, you all know about Informix ascendant compatibility. I mean, you can start from a version of about 20 years ago. It will work with today's version, or kind of things. So it did work. But thing is to say, I mean, some projects are considered to last 2 or 3 years, and at the end they may not even go till the end. So that's not a joke. I mean, this happens, and this has to be known. Okay, that's another point, and also, and a bit of humor here, but young developers know those new language. I mean, that's what they learn at school, that's what they learn in college, blah, blah. But thing is that many times those guys don't know how my company works. So they don't have a clue on the functional part of applications. They don't know how to implement things. They may know the languages, they may know the technique, but they're not aware of how a company works. And okay, and more humor, as many a time those guys answers question, give answers before listening to the question, so that can lead to something else. Okay, so what shall we do? Okay, let's take the question one by one. Informix 4GL does not know nor accept BSON data type. Lycia queries Lycia internally accept BSON definition implicit or explicit. Next question. Informix SQL syntax that don't know how to handle BSON data. Prepare and execute the query using NoSql functions that will return the data in the right format. Third question. By definition, the structure of the JSON data returned by an engine is unknown. That's true. Lycia has method to convert a JSON string returned by the engine to a format easily usable with 4GL, and Lycia has no dynamic data structure that BSON perfectly fit JSON use, just as the new language do. And last question, how can 4GL input or display variables that we don't even know which name they have? JSON data will be handled with regular 4GL statement and forms. So if we believe everything that is written here, with Lycia, we have the way to have applications working. This is the answer. Okay, so back to the thing, recipe for baking BSON data with 4GL. First part in the Informix database. Warning, I am giving quantities in metric system data, so please mind with the conversion. So we need to pour 300 grams of BSON column into your IDS table. Okay, now talking about your Querix Lycia cooking robots. This one. We take the former version of your program, of your source code. You will add 100 grams of LVAR to define the variable containing the BSON value, pour 200 grams of cast to JSON into the select from table statement, pour 400 grams of JSON to BSON cast in the insert and update statement, 125 grams of hash map into the define section. Okay, then mix the SQL statement and the hash map with the util.json.parts tool until an homogeneous texture is obtained. And finally, pour the mixture into an input array container. That's the right path to get rid of those two numerous downtimes due to schema change. Okay, hands on. You can wait. I can't either. Okay, let's go now. If I find it. Okay, so many. Okay, so this is the Queryx Lycia environment. That's the old one. I did not choose to take the new IDE based on VS Code that you probably heard about in the last Queryx presentation. So basically, this is the program I had before. Okay, let's run it very quickly. That was the program before. So asking whether it would show up. Okay, obviously here it is. Okay, connecting. Okay, so that's a regular program that, by the way, has been generated by my 4GL generator, which gives us some nice code. For instance, I want a query on about, okay, you know the syntax, you know how this works. So, okay. So we have, I'm in the menu, I'm in ring menu, so to scroll on products, okay. You see there, product length, product width, product base. So moving to next row, etc., etc. Okay. So that's the old way I did it. Now I have been working on that program, which I'm gonna show you some pieces of the source code. Referring to the recipe I mentioned before. So just for your information, first of all, define types, which is our global kind of global format of data that we'll reuse in the program structure. This is called type. You define it once, and then you use it as this type and in the other program, which allows you to have the same structure and not to be to make errors in the definitions. And you see here prospect that I defined it in as LVAR. So put it here. I mean, I won't explain about the structure of the program because it would take a lot of time. So here I define the cursors. I mean, in Queryx, you can define cursors as variable, which is very handy. You can pass one cursor from one function to another module if you want. I mean, that's very, very handy thing. Okay, so basically, so that's the ring menu. I mean, you know, all the format, the query data. I mean, use a scroll cursor, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the structure is done this way. So I want to understand, first of all, how I do the prepare statements. Okay, here are my prepare statements. Okay, that's the select one of the full row. Okay, I select a number of columns, obviously, and see what the prospect, which is the BSON column, I will cast it to JSON. That has to be done. Next one is the insert statement. Same. Now, this cast is a bit different. I have to perform a double cast, which is first to JSON, then to BSON, because BSON is the internal format in which the data is stored in the engine. Same for update, because I want to push data to the database engine. And here we go. That's how it is done. So now let's say I want to display, to fetch the row. So this is how that's the full row fetching. So that's how I use it with the function, using the cursor as a variable. So that's my cursor name where I open with the parameters, and that's where I fetch it, returning the values. So that's how it's done. Okay, so that's it. Now, next, what is going to be worthwhile mentioning? Insert data. Probably this will be about setting the data. Gosh, forgot function names. Okay, setting the. I have a function that sets the data. Blah blah blah. Prospects. Okay, prospect goes as prospects as I input it, and when I do the prepare for insert or delete, that's the same way, basically. And what I need to get there is this function, which goes one way or another way. So when we have input the data into a hash, first of all, this is in to out. I take the contents of the column and I will map it to whatever called a hash. A hash is kind of a dynamic array that contains, that will fit the JSON structure. It has a key and it has a value, and that's the whole trick of all the thing. So I can do it this way, or I can do it the other way. And we have another parse here. So here it is, and display array. So you can see here that when I display the values of BSON column, I will finally use a display array or an input array. So that's about what needs to be done with the NoSQL data. So now I won't compile it, but I know it does. So let's just run it. Okay, here's my new program. Oh, beautiful. So you see I've changed. Those ones have gone. So I just at the end, I have here a zone, an area in my form that will handle those data. So I just query. Okay, let's take whatever, all the rows I have. So this one has no specs. Okay, next. Oh gosh. This one comes from my BSON column. So I have width, weight, freezing point, and color. Next one has nothing. This one has weight, type, width. Okay, great. This one has capacity, weight, specs, whatever I want. And okay, I want to modify this. Okay, this modifying the first point here. I want, for instance, to add a spec. Okay, capacity, weight. Okay, freezing point is interesting. That's my key. And my value will be, for instance, let's have that. 5 Celsius negative. Okay, am I okay to update this? Okay, so let's check. Go back to the same row. Oh, marvelous. I got my freezing point now. So I have a new attribute without modifying any data in the database, in the table. That's what I wanted. So my prospects issue is resolved. Anything can come, we have the solution. Back to the press. Lessons learned. From what I see, 4GL is no more a barrier to face development, including NoSQL data. I have all the material to handle NoSQL, JSON, and because it's part of the language. What do I need? I need JSON methods, I need hash maps, cast, and hybrid data in the DBMS, obviously, BSON comments. That's a real change. New functional horizons are now reachable. You can now tell your manager that it is possible to have achieved such development with a minimum of risk, because you will keep your application's core. You won't modify it. It will keep working, probably in a much more beautiful way, because you can see that those forms screens are really neat and look nice. It works on browser. It works on cloud. I mean, it can be integrated into Kubernetes architecture and all that. So we keep the same application, but we enrich them with up-to-date functionality and very easily. So this can give you ideas to smoothly and safely enhance and redesign some parts of your DB schema to make it more flexible and make it at the time more efficient. And at the end, yes, 4GL is a good language. It's a very good language. It was just missing a number of things that we are implementing at the moment, and we are right. And there is a beautiful typo here. I'm so sorry for that. Okay, new ideas. Okay, any topic that has to do with prospects, you see, man, that's obvious. I mean, you create a column, a BSON column, and that's you can cover the topic for a long time. That's what you saw in this short demo. Any topic related with data hierarchy or classification. I mean, when, in some companies, they use family, subfamily, group, subgroup. In other company, they use class. They use whatever or other word to do this. And it's not exactly the same. So with this kind of thing, you can achieve a very flexible way of organizing your data. Also, I mean, this goes to the next, which is effective in when an application is used in different contexts, like generic software, like accounting or whatever. Some companies will do things in one way, some other company will do things in another way. So that's way easier to implement. You just have to follow the line. NoSQL makes custom application setup much easier. And finally, the obvious one, IoT application, because when you talk about JSON data, this is what you will always see, edge computing, edge computers pushing JSON data. And considering that with Lycia, we have JSON, we can handle JSON, we can handle hash map, we have regular expression, we have the REST API that's beautifully implemented. Also, you can use with Swagger to make things even easier to talk to internal or external web services. Meaning with 4GL, you can create beautiful web services that will push data or even take data, but also you can take data from external web services. I mean, just have to connect them, and using JSON hash map, you have all the tools to do that in a perfect way. Also, Lycia has multi-threading features. I mean, you can take some number of sessions together, just like IDS does. Also, zero MQ, which is something that looks like MQTT or Mosquito or whatever, which is talking one program talking to another program. Basically, this could be one Lycia application server talking to maybe a Raspberry Pi or something like this. And if consider that we can include Lycia in the Kubernetes architecture, making it cloud ready, I mean, what else do we need? So what next? Okay, true. If 4GL can do major part of what languages like Python or Java can do, and many more, why should we develop applications that need tons of source code? I mean, writing an application with Java and we're writing the same thing with the 4GL, you all know that the 4GL will be way shorter than the Java one, and other languages too. Also, this looks crazy. We think it is possible to develop a part, I mean, maybe not the whole IoT application, but part of it with Lycia and Informix. We will not go on the edge computing thing because, I mean, those computers are too small and they wouldn't handle such a language. So let's keep with Python. We'll have the youngsters do it with Python, and everything will be fine. But seriously considering to work on the department IoT application that can concentrate edge devices data. So we are, at the moment, we started designing a new scenario involving data capture from edge devices handled by Lycia 4GL and Informix. And okay, guys, you'll have to wait because it's not over, but I would be definitely pleased to show you that in a few months. Okay, the Can-Do thing, you might have heard about Can-Do, so I will briefly talk about it. Can-Do is a unique open source ERP suite, all developed in 4GL. So this is open source, so this is open source. I mean, you all know what is open source. What I just wanted to mention is we have a very different vision on software developing and contribution, that if you are a 4GL developer, you should come and visit us and have to talk. Basically, that's a radical idea. So visit us, candoerp.org, and let's talk. Okay, this was the 2 minutes about Can-Do. Listen, Can-Do is my baby. I mean, not the application itself, but how we run it. It's my baby. So please feel free to talk to me. No problem on this. And here we go. So we may be a bit out of schedule, but okay, I can listen to your questions.
So Eric, I don't know if you see the chat, but you've got 2 questions there.
Yeah. Okay, just looking at it now. Okay, Rhonda says I must be dreaming. Okay, no one will change me even that old. Okay. Okay, getting there. Muting. We can use JSON until we don't convert a char set to UTF-8. Okay, is this a question? This is to Gabor. Can you please elaborate the question? I mean, Lycia handles. I mean, in the language, it's handled UTF-8, so that's not a problem. Now, is using JSON does it impact? The data storing? I'm not sure about this. Sincerely, Gabor, if you want to reach me after, I didn't leave my email address. Oh, my email address is very simple. I will write it here. eric@candoerp.org, because I'm not sure I understand pretty well the question, so I prefer answering to that. Alejandro, is this a good way to migrate to Cloud Pak for data Informix? Okay, is Hubert listening to us at the moment? If yes, please, Lester, give him the mic. Basically, we are about to port. I mean, Lycia works in a Kubernetes environment. We did not talk yet about Cloud Pak, but I bet Querix is keen on talking with IBM to integrate this into Cloudpack. Hubert, if you're listening and if you can talk, maybe you have something to answer.
I just
Hello,
sent him
yes.
a request to
Thank you.
unmute,
Yes, I'm
yes.
unmuted. Hi, I'm Hubert. Honestly, I have not done any homework on Cloudpack yet, so I can't tell you anything. What it actually involves on the side of Informix.
Cloudpack is some cloud package. I mean, an IBM one where basically you have packages of this, of that application, where IDS is one part and Lycia could be one part, I think. So from what I know, there is no project yet to be integrated into Cloudpack, but if IBM is keen on talking with Querix, I think that's
Well, it's just yeah. Then it would be a 5-minute job. Yep.
Yeah.
It's just another cloud package then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think technically it should be that difficult. That's my point. I don't know what you think,
Yep.
Hubert.
No, it's always the same as one. There's no difference really between different cloud packages on virtual machines, etc. It's no difference for us really.
It's a matter of a brand. So technically, I think it is possible with no difficulty. It's not done yet, but okay, let's talk. Okay, Javier, if your application is developed in 4GL, then yes, Lycia will be. Thank you, Javier. Yeah, I mean, having it on the cloud, that's one of the best things, because you can develop on cloud. I mean, you can run on cloud, runtime on cloud, but you can
run and develop on cloud.
Yes. So Hubert,
that's the interesting part.
But you've been already talking about this in the presentation.
Yesterday, yeah.
But in 1 minute, basically, with your browser.
With your browser, you install a plugin for Visual, as a VS Code it's called. It's from, the name already says it's from Microsoft. It's an open editor, but a cloud development environment with many plugins for different languages. And we've got our 4GL plugin for it. You have got a browser, you run it, you connect to your development server. You can do anything: code, compile, debug, form design, anything. And all what you need is really a browser.
Okay.
Everything is handled from the server.
For those who do not know VS Code, I mean, I totally fell in love with his IDE. I mean, and the right manner of handling 4GL code. See how it works. You know,
and of course, and you don't have to mess around about environment. Is the environment correct? Is this correct? Because you just plug in, you just visit the cloud and do it.
Yeah. I am black. No, I'm dark. That's different. Scott, if the OS on your on-prem 4GL apps is different than the OS used by Cloudpack, then you want to move the apps to the cloud. You might have to recompile those apps. No, this is Lycia.
No,
this is P-code.
Lycia uses Apple LVM. It's from Apple. It's again, no.
So
just like Java or anything else, no recompilation.
You don't need to recompile. Thing is that you have to have a compatible platform, which is Windows or
Linux.
Yeah. And if IBM wants AIX, this can be done.
I'm afraid, we do not do AIX.
Yeah. But I mean, nothing impossible, I think.
Cool. Well, we're about out of time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this, Eric. This was a awesome job. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. You got my contact in the chat. Whatever you want to know, whatever you want to talk, or just say hi or whatever. As you know, I speak 5 languages. Many of you know it, so this will be pretty much welcome. So, gracias a todos. Obrigado a todos. Merci à tous. Thank you all. And merci was between. This was in Breton, my local language. And okay, guys, have fun. And I hope this conference is very good for all of you. And cannot wait to have the next one next year. Thank you.
And we'll see you tomorrow at the last session.
Of
Have a
course.
good evening.
Yeah, of course. So with virtual Corona, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thanks all. The session is over.